Welcome everybody back to the Friar Talk live stream. Today we're going to be answering any questions you guys have about the Padres, about football. We'll be discussing the Niners and the Chargers matchups because those are our teams, and then kind of going through all the NFL stuff. But any questions that you guys have related to the Padres, obviously there's a lot of stuff, not really a lot of stuff going on, but there's a lot of MLB news just because of free agency. I know the big kind of questions for the Padres are like, are they going to make any big splashes early on? We talked about it before. I don't really think they're going to. I just think that their plans are more like, let's wait, let's see what this market looks like. I'm also a person that believes that they shouldn't go after like big name pitchers or like, guys that are going to make $20+ million in the pitching department. I do like Marcus Stroman a lot. I still don't know if it's worth it because, okay, what happens to Joe Musgrove then? Are you not able to pay him? If that's what that means, I would rather rock with Joe Musgrove. And I don't even know if that's from like skill set or just like a bias of like, I like Joe Musgrove a lot. I like to root for Joe Musgrove because I feel like everybody does. I don't know. Everyone in San Diego does at least. But it's just something like to kind of monitor. Are they going in? Are they trying to make these big moves or are they more – looking for smaller pitching signings, and then when that because the batting market I think is going to open up later in winter, maybe in like February. It could be that late because the season could get postponed a little bit with a lot of the CBA agreements getting decided. But what are your guys' kind of thoughts right now before the questions start coming in? And I'll start with you, Chase. But like, what are your questions like for the Padres right now? Like, where are you kind of looking at them? Like, are you concerned about them not going after someone, or do you think it's a good move?
How hard are you actually trying to get rid of Hosmer? And how much money are you willing to eat on that contract to get rid of Hosmer? Because no team, unless there's a salary floor implemented, is going to look at that contract and be like, yeah, you know what? I want all of Hosmer. I want all of that contract. Just give me like some prospects. I don't think any team's going to do that because Hosmer's just going to – it's just a bad deal. And then if you can't get rid of Hosmer, do you try to get rid of Myers and his contract? But then how much of that are you going to eat? And what prospects would you send away with that? Because it's almost the same deal. Hosmer is Myers is a better player. He's better defensively. He's better with the bat. But you're still going to eat some probably $10 million on that contract if you don't want to give up a top 5 prospect. Like it's a lose-lose situation in the case with Myers. You might get away with it for Hosmer just because you upgrade defensively, you upgrade offensively. You upgrade in almost every which way, getting rid of Hosmer at first.
Yeah, my biggest concern is that Hosmer is going to end up on this roster come opening day. I don't know how likely that is. I think, from reading AJ Casavel's article, if I sound like crap, I'm sorry. I'm sick. But reading AJ Casavel, my swag chain doesn't spin. I don't know if any of the swag chains from the store spin though. But if any of them spin, let me know because I want one that spins. It's kind of cool. With that being said, I don't really know if if there's really going to be a place for Myers. I don't think it's a bad idea to keep Myers. I do think he's a little bit of a problem considering the money he makes. But that's the only issue is considering the money he makes. Chase and I were actually talking about it last night. Like, yeah, it's not his fault. They heavily backloaded his contract. Unfortunately, that's, taking a toll on the team, it's taking a toll on him, considering how much value he's supposed to bring considering that contract. So, with that being said, I think it will be easier to trade Will Myers. And that sucks to say because we all like Will Myers way more than we like Eric Hosmer. It's just that with trading Eric Hosmer, you're going to have to give up a lot of money and you might have to give up a top 5 prospect. And I don't think the Padres are in a position really to be able to do that. So what I was also telling Chase last night, and I think we kind of both agree on that, is that with this whole CBA contract thing, we're kind of hoping that a salary floor is implemented. And I've been in favor of a salary cap for a while just because we see teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees going out and, spending all out. But with the salary floor, it prevents teams like the Pirates, the Rays, the A's from being dirt cheap and actually trying to put, a money, a product worth something onto the field instead of cheaping out. And, that's mainly the reason that they don't get any people in their seats. that would help the Padres in the way that it's easier to get rid of Hosmer. It's easier to get rid of Myers. It's easier to get rid of, whoever else you think is on a bad contract. If you don't want to take the role on you, Darvish, then you can trade him. It's much easier to get rid of the 36-year-old on making around $20 million. Now, I would personally take the roll of dice on you, Darvish, but we're kind of just hoping for a salary floor here to get rid of guys that we want to. In terms of big money contracts, I don't really know if I feel comfortable signing Stroman. I don't really think we need Stroman. I think going out and trading for someone like Bassett, I don't even know how to say his name, Manaea, I don't know. But someone that's not an expensive option, but somebody like Joe Musgrove, who's not an expensive option, could flourish.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And we gotta find some names. We'll probably get that out soon, where it's like, oh, this is a guy that the Padres should go after. Chase, I know you had a couple names in mind for those. I do want to go back real quick, answer a couple of these questions. So, do you guys think that Bob Melvin is going to keep the swag chain going? So, I've actually seen this kind of brought up a lot, like just in the comment sections, like, oh, the swag chain needs to go, or just kind of wondering like what's going on with the swag chain. Like, is that something that we should keep? Like this comment is asking. And for me, I don't think it's something that like teams like lose focus. I don't think that's what's happening. I think it's more of a product of you're losing and you have something flashy that some people think is stupid. So then of course it's going to get more criticized when you struggle when that's happening. To me, I mean, you guys still the Niners stuff, big Niners fan. The thing this year for a lot of Niner fans is that they want Kyle Shanahan fired because they're struggling. And they don't like the way that he like composes himself on the sideline, stuff like that. When does that get brought up? When you're below expectations. It's always when you're below expectations that those kind of questions and like, is this what's causing it? Is this what's causing it? I think it's more of just you're struggling, and that's the reason why people are critical of it. I completely understand it. It makes perfect sense. If you're struggling, you have to ask, like, is this an issue? Is this an issue? Is the way that Kyle Shanahan runs his team an issue? Is the way that the Padres have the swag chain, is that an issue? So that's a big question there. I don't think it really is like hurting them. I think if they succeed and they have the swag chain, I think it's completely independent of their success. I don't think it matters. Do either of you guys think it matters though?
No, it's just something they look to when the team's struggling. Be like, they struggled since they implemented this. There was a lot of problems on that team last year. A lot of it's coming out now in the offseason. So I don't think the swag chain was a problem. Productivity was a problem. The manager was a problem. Hosmer was a problem. There was a lot of things that you could contribute to the second half's demise of the Padres. But when they had the swag chain going, morale was high, and you want to always keep morale high during a season. It's just something fun. It gets the team energetic, so keep it.
Yeah, I remember when the swag chain first came in, everybody loved it. We were still winning. Everybody was in love with the swag chain. I would argue it was one of the biggest, if not the biggest thing in baseball going at that time. And it was super fun. I mean, shoot, I bought a swag chain. So it was a lot of fun when it was first came in. But, when we started losing, people started blaming it on an object, which it's weird. You can't blame losing on an object. There was a lot of other factors. Injuries to the starting rotation was a big factor. Eric Hosmer being one of the worst players in baseball was a big factor. Fernando, after he came back from his IL stint, wasn't the Fernando that we all, really knew. It seemed like he was being held back, whether it was from playing the outfield or wearing a brace. I don't know what it was, but he wasn't performing up to where he was before. There was a lot of factors that went into the Padres not pulling through anymore. So, no, I think the swag chain has to stay. And if you really think about it, I don't think they would get rid of one of their biggest marketing. This is one of their biggest things that sells right now. So I don't think they'd get rid of that. I know the players probably don't care too much about that, but, the organization does. But I love the swag chain. I think it's super cool. You saw the Phillies start implementing that stupid hat. You see a bunch of things around baseball going on.
You don't like the Homer hat?
I don't like the Homer hat.
I think it's so funny, dude. I love that. I saw that. I thought it was so funny.
Hey, we're supposed to make baseball fun, man. Keep the fun stuff. You can't kick it out.
Yeah, that's fun. Exactly.
All right, what else we got? What do you think the Padres' first move will be? I know what I hope it'll be. I hope it'll be moving on from Hosmer and kind of getting the ball rolling on like, all right, freeing up some money. Let's go make some moves now. I do think that the first move will involve something to do with trading guys away to free up salary. I would expect that to be the first move. It might be a long time until that happens, but if it does happen, and like you guys were talking about the salary floor, that's something that's so huge. I didn't really get into it much, but I think that's for like look at the NFL. Why is the NFL so popular? Because teams fill out their roster. They're not like super cheap. Now you do have the Dean Spanoses of the world that are ultra cheap, but they were never ultra cheap with the roster even. Look at the Pirates. Look at how bad it would be to be a Pirates fan. And we actually have some people that have listened that are Pirates fans when the Musgrove trade happened. I feel so bad for that fan base. You literally have no chance ever, because your team, what's the biggest contract? $11 million to McCutchen? I think that's what it was. $11 million a year. Like, they put no effort into winning, and it's legitimately only a cash flow for the owner. That's a serious problem. There was a report that said that there are only 17 teams actually trying to win this year in baseball. That's barely over half of the teams. 13 teams are in complete tank mode. Like, that's an awful product for the sport. So I think it's very, very possible that they implement it because it's really bad. So I don't know. I hope that it's something that is implemented, and I think that if it is, it makes it more likely to be able to trade Hosmer or Myers. You brought up Darvish. I really doubt that they do trade him, like you said as well, but it definitely makes it more probable you see that kind of stuff happen. Then also have a couple questions over here. Do you see Gore being pulled up? Is CJ Abrams on the 40-man roster? I don't know if he's on the 40-man roster, but I don't think he has to be protected for the Rule 5. The only guy, or maybe there was more, but the only guy that I was really concerned about getting picked up was Brandon Valenzuela, and we're going to talk more specifically about him next week, just because it's very likely that he is taken in the Rule 5 draft. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? The first move, and then Gore. What do you think about those probabilities of that happening?
I think the first move is like we signed a low end reliever because I think we're going to get rid of some guys, sign some cheaper guys, hope Niebla can fix them up, and hope for the best. I mean, we have a lot of guys also coming back from injury, so you might just want to add some depth to that. I think that's what we're going to do. I don't think Gore is going to get called up right away. I think Gore is probably like an injury to the pitching staff away from getting called up. So therefore, I think they're going to do we're going to wait the 2 to 3 weeks and see where you're at. So we get another year on your contract. And if you're not ready, then you'll get called up halfway through. And Abrams doesn't need to be on the 40-man right now. I think he has another year, maybe 2. No, I think he has another year before he is eligible for the Rule 5. And just bringing up the whole Pirates thing again, I saw there's a company called Lumberland. They make like mugs out of baseball bats. And they did a kind of like asking their employees who was the most tortured fan base in all of sports. It was between the Pirates, the Browns, and the Jets. Those were the top 3 answers.
Damn. Yeah, so I mean that's why salary floor is so important. So that way the fans that spend their money on these organizations, put their time into it, they actually have something to look forward to, something to root for. I honestly don't understand how owners can have a loyal fan base and not try and give back for them. But the whole thing about Gore, I honestly do think he's going to get brought up this season. I definitely think we're going to see him eventually because, I mean, injuries happen, all that kind of stuff happens. Like Chase said, I don't think he will be in the starting rotation or anything. I just think he's an injury away from making his debut. I feel like when Ruben Niebla came in, I feel like priority number 1 was getting Mackenzie Gore right. And that has to be priority number 1, considering how long he's been the number 1 prospect in your organization. Not anymore. But for the longest time, he was the number 1 prospect. I think right now it's CJ Abrams. No surprise, he's going to be a stud. And with CJ Abrams, Chase is right. I'm pretty sure we have another year or 2 before he's eligible. He's not going to reach that point. I mean, obviously. I've talked about putting him in a corner outfield spot. I think right field's a perfect spot for him. I don't know what Chase and Matt think about that, but if you just look around the league in terms of some of the best players in baseball right now, Shohei started off as a right fielder with the Angels, if I remember correctly. He did pitch a couple times too, but now he's just a DH and a pitcher. Obviously, Abrams will not be that. But Harper, Soto, a lot of good players in baseball right now are in right field. A lot of the same tools that Abrams has, Mookie Betts has as well. I'm not saying he's going to be Mookie, but speed, arm, hitting. I mean, I don't know if he can for as much power as Mookie, but contact, everything like that is similar. There was one more. Oh, the first move. I would hope the first move is re-signing Joe Musgrove, or is extending Joe Musgrove. I think that has to be the first move, just because he's already there. He seems favorable. He wants to stay in San Diego, and I think that's the easiest first move to make. So I think that would be the first move.
Also, one other thing is you can potentially sign or extend Joe Musgrove and lower his, I don't know if it's cap hit, but basically lower his salary this year. What's affecting the Padres. So maybe that is something that's done. Because I said that would be one of the things I'd like to see. And there's a way you do that if you backload the deal, because he'll make way more money later on. And it does make sense considering some of the deals that the Padres have. The big one though is okay, Tatis's deal gets way bigger in the next couple of years. But it's still not even that crazy till Tatis is a lot older, which is cool, because you have a lot of freedom to be able to spend. Couple other things. Mackenzie Gore. I have a lot of faith in Mackenzie Gore still. I know a lot of people don't. I don't think it's a really bad take or anything if you don't. I completely get it. He's struggled. He's really struggled. I think Ruben Niebla being in here shows that they are not all in, but they are really, really devoted to trying to improve Mackenzie Gore, trying to improve guys like Chris Paddock. These prospects that are high end, they have the very good stuff. I think that Paddock, for instance, he developed his third pitch this year, which is so big. Did he put it together? No, absolutely not. That's the next step. But we've actually seen Paddock have some positive development with his curveball, with his fastball this year compared to the 2020 season, especially. Changeup takes a step back. Well, a lot of people with the changeup have seen, okay, Rothschild, that's kind of what's happened with him, is that the changeup have fallen apart. Look at Blake Snell. That was one of his go-to pitches, and it was just not there last year. So I think that you can see that improve with Niebla as well, where for Paddock and Gore, I would put stock up into both of them with that signing. I think it's that big of a deal. I think it's going to – because that was our biggest thing I want to say was hey, even if you don't go sign these guys, because you look back on some of the other years, oh, yeah, you go spend $27 million on Jurickson Profar. Like Jurickson a lot, but that's not the Padres' issue. The Padres' issue is that they can't develop pitchers. They cannot do it. So if you bring him in and we start to see some positive improvement in that, it means so much for the Padres. I think that is the biggest thing that could happen, because say you do have Mackenzie Gore get called up, and say it's just for a bullpen role. Say it's a kind of where you have Ryan Weathers in that 2-inning role, and he's good. That could be huge. That could be so big for your season. And also that look at what the future of your franchise looks then too, because you have this guy that can come out there and be great. So I'm pretty big on having faith in Mackenzie Gore. Could I be wrong? Absolutely, 100%. He hasn't looked great lately, but it's more of a consistency issue than him not having the talent. Tying the talent together is a very, very hard thing, but I would definitely put stock up in him, seeing that they're trying to establish, all right, we have good pitching coaches. We have people here that can develop him. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. Another one, you guys worried about Tatis's shoulder? Oh, yes. So worried about it. That's probably one of the biggest concerns I have. I'm worried about it. I don't know. Where are you guys at on that kind of stuff, though?
Pretty worried. We saw it come out 4 times, if we want to include the spring training incident. It was 4. Let's say spring training, and then it happened 3 times in season. It happened when he slid, happened when he swung, and then we saw it kind of bug him a couple times when he was fielding ground balls, but he didn't have to come out of the game. So, when you look at that and you go, yeah, I'm not getting the surgery. I'm just going to try to rehab it. There's always the concern that rehab isn't going to be enough. We've seen it time and time again. It's a completely different injury. But all the guys that get PRP therapy instead of getting Tommy John because they want to rehab the muscle instead of surgery, sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes getting the surgery, you're better off starting off from scratch. You got brand new ligament, you got everything, it's healed, it's proper. You may have some time getting used to trusting that shoulder again because, going through surgery and rehab is a long process. But in the end, you're probably gain more than you lose. And that is my concern, is that, yeah, he tries to rehab it, but it's one of those things where it's always going to be a consistent issue just because it's always at risk of popping out on a swing, on a dive. We see how Tatis likes to play defense. He's very flashy with the glove. He lands wrong on a shoulder, that problem exudes all over again.
I think as long as he doesn't get the surgery, it's going to be probably one of the biggest concerns in the Padres season, off season, in season, whatever it is. It's going to be one of the biggest concerns. What I do like about it this year, even though he isn't getting the surgery, what I do like about it is that, I feel like the past couple seasons, he hasn't really gotten the off season to really prioritize getting his shoulder right, strengthening that area of his shoulder. This off season seems like that's his main focus, getting, strengthening that area of the shoulder, getting it right for the season. But as long as he doesn't have that surgery, it's going to be a huge issue, considering that our season rides on if Tatis is healthy or not. Like whether we think so or not, our season does ride on if Tatis is healthy or not. On-field production, energy, whatever it is, Tatis brings it all. And if he's not healthy, we're kind of screwed. So, I would think he's going to get the surgery eventually. I just don't, maybe for him right now, it wasn't a good option. Maybe, I don't know what to think of it, but I think it'll be fine.
I also see Juan here commented maybe he doesn't just trust the training staff. Don't blame him there. You've seen how bad it's been with some of that stuff. But got a couple other things I wanted to bring up. I think this is a good comment. I think this is, even though we're like pro keeping Mackenzie Gore, I think this is absolutely true. Gore's a gamble, and if our pitching coach can't figure him out, then no team will want him. I don't know if no team will want him, but his value will fall off the table. Like it will definitely do that. I think it's a gamble that is worth taking because I think Mackenzie Gore has the stuff to be a number one. Does that mean he's going to be a number one? No, of course not. But I think he has the stuff to do it and the consistency. I also just think like if we look around the Padres organization, everyone went on like the decline with the former pitching coaches, the former development staff. You went and they made a drastic change there. So I think you have to kind of look at him and try to do that. Because the other thing is like Gore's value is already a lot lower than his talent is because he hasn't played well. So if you trade him, are you going to trade him, get something back that's not that great, and then Mackenzie Gore is going to go do what it feels like every good Padres pitcher that they trade away does? Like it always feels like those guys turn into monsters. So I don't know. That's the thing to me. Like, but I think it's fair. I think it's super fair. I think this is a great comment. I know that also Eric and Greg aren't super like they're big on trading Gore. I think that's totally fair. I think and I know also Hogg is also big on trading Gore too. So like, I don't think it's bad. I just think that it's gonna be one of those things where it's gonna be a big move that could go really bad or really good. And I just think it's gonna end up it's not gonna end up like in the middle, like, oh yeah, it's all right. No, either he's gonna be a monster or he's not gonna be a monster, and they're gonna lose out on a lot of potential trade value. So we'll see how it turns out, but I do expect them to not trade him though, also just because of some of these moves. Also, this is a great one. The DH position could save Eric Hosmer's career. No one needs a DH more than the Padres. That is 100% true. You guys look at how the pitchers cannot bunt, cannot hit, cannot do anything outside of like Blake Snell and for some reason Darvish because he just hits rockets somehow. But yeah, if we end up keeping him, which I think is like a 90% chance, I think that's likely. Also, that's still something that will help the Padres a lot. Having Eric Hosmer hitting in the pitcher's spot oppose the pitchers and not fielding first base, it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't think it is. I think our issue more with like not keeping Hosmer is that it just seems like it became such like a toxic thing where it's like, all right, like that was clearly an issue for the Padres. I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys think this is true? I don't think it's a 90% chance that they keep him, but I think that the DH being brought to the NL definitely helps those chances.
Yeah, it does. But I'm going to go back to the Gore thing just because I want to clarify some things. It is so much harder for an MLB prospect that is a pitcher to come up and live to their expectations than it is for a hitter. You come into the league and you look at how many aces that there are that are Gore's age. How many are there? Can you guys list any of them right now that are Gore's age?
How old is Bueller?
Bueller's in his mid-20s.
Okay, so he's like 3 or 4 years.
Yes. And even then,
27.
Bueller's early. Who?
27. He's 27.
Yeah. You see these guys, all these young guys that are, the next and upcoming pitchers, they didn't make or break until like 23, 24 years old. Julio Urias, yeah, he came into the league young, but he was never a starter. He was coming out of the bullpen, and then he would go down to the minor leagues to get more seasoning. It wasn't until really this year that he started to fully become a starter, this year and last year. It is so much harder for MLB prospects that are pitchers to come up and live to their value. You see a bunch of hitters do that. You see Juan Soto come up at 19. You see Tatis come up at 19, 20. You see Acuna come up at 20, 21. You see Mike Trout do it. You see Harper do it. That just attests to how hard it is being a pitcher in the MLB. You can't just give up the fact that, yeah, this guy had a rough year or rough years. It takes time to develop pitching at the MLB level. And if you do it properly, you're going to have an ace for the next 10 years. So, it's going to take him some time. There's a lot of adjustments to be made being a pitcher in the MLB. That's why the MLB pitching market is so saturated that all these high-end pitchers are going to be making over $20 million a year. Hell, Syndergaard, who only threw 2 innings last year, made $1 because he is that ace caliber pitcher. So that's why I'm saying you can't give up on Gore. You got to give him a few years to develop. And then Hosmer, yeah, if the DH comes, I think they're just going to use him as the DH. Just if you keep Hosmer, don't play him at first base. For the love of God, I can't stand it anymore. Just put him at DH. I don't care if he grounds out anymore. At least I don't have to watch him blow defensively.
Yeah, that's why I'm hoping the salary floor comes in because I want to get rid of Hosmer so bad. Even if he DHs, if you're a DH and you're not hitting 30 plus home runs, you suck. You suck as a DH if you're not hitting 30 plus bombs. So with that being said, though, going back to Gore, I don't think you can trade Gore. This is kind of his lowest value that he's going to be at. Too much talent to be able to trade for such little value. I don't think that talent goes away. He's a lefty pitcher that had excellent stuff coming into 2020. The pandemic hit. He didn't get much time on the field, much hands-on. Much hands-on training, and definitely took a toll on him. But you could tell the emphasis on trying to get Gore right. I think it was like a day or two. It was either the day of, the day after, or the day after the day after that you saw Ruben Niebla working with Gore hands-on at Petco Park. It was the day after the whole fall league. I think they cut him off the roster or whatever. So it's definitely an emphasis on trying to get him right. Not only do I think it's a mechanical problem, I think a lot of it has to do with his mental problems. I think a lot of it is mental. We talk about it a lot that baseball is a lot of a mental game, and if you're not in it with your head, then you're not going to be in it on the field. It's where you are mentally heavily depend. I mean, it heavily influences your performance on the field. So with Mackenzie Gore, he's had a lot more failure than he has had success this past year or two. And, being able to get him right, get his mechanics right, get more confidence in him to be able to realize that he is, a major league pitcher, if not a major league pitcher, like an ace caliber major league pitcher, and it'll be important to get him to that mentality.
Yeah. I think this is another good question to bring up because, say, we're not talking about Gore, but some of these other guys, what AAA pitchers are ready to be called up for the Padres? And I'll say also like AA guys. I did see, who was it? Someone commented, Gil. He commented, Steven Wilson, Kevin Kopps will fortify the bullpen. Totally agree. I think there are two guys that could really definitely be up. Steven Wilson especially, like he has to be in the pen, right? Like I would be so shocked if he wasn't in the bullpen next year to start the season. So I think, I don't know, Chase, who else do you have?
Adrian Martinez. I had Ethan Elliott. God, there was more names. I'm just forgetting. I'm looking up the AAA roster now.
Would Reggie Lawson potentially be a guy? He just got moved down to AAA, but he was hurt. So maybe like later on in the year.
I don't know how he finished off this season because he was only pitching like 2 innings at a time because of the injury. I don't know how he finished off the season or how many innings he ended up getting. He did struggle. He had only pitched 6 innings in 2021. He had 9 strikeouts, but he had a 9.45 ERA. I looked at guys like Ethan Elliott, Adrian Martinez. He started to finally come around in AAA. Ethan Elliott was having a pretty solid year in AA. You look at the like Steven Wilson, Kevin Kopps is going to probably come through. Robert Gasser, depending on how he develops, he seemed pretty ready throughout his collegiate career. But Kevin Kopps is more likely the guy that's going to come in and probably be that guy that does everything because he did everything in college. So it's going to be between Steven Wilson, Kevin Kopps, and probably Ethan Elliott and Adrian Martinez.
Yeah, Martinez and Kopps are the ones that pop out to me. Martinez was having a solid year in AA before going up to AAA. And, I mean, things kind of got rocky for him in AAA. I don't know why. I don't know what attributed to it. I wasn't really keeping up with what went wrong with him in AAA. But in AA, he had some solid numbers. So, take it with a grain of salt what happened in AAA. Other than that, though, I can't really think of any names. What was the question I wanted to look at? This one right here. Will Darvish bounce back now that he has time to fully recover from his back and hip injuries? Not only do I think it's a matter of his back and hip injuries, it's a matter of how can he do without the sticky stuff. I don't know if it was related to mechanical changes because of his injuries, but I started to see less life on his fastball, kind of less life on all his pitches. The inability to control his pitches. I started to see that kind of I want to say like in June. And, again, I don't know if that attributed to injuries or losing the sticky stuff, but, something's got to give. Now he has a full off season to be able to, pitch without the sticky stuff. In terms of injuries, though, he's getting up there in age. And that's why I kind of brought up here, like, if there is a salary floor and they did have a little bit of interest in trading Darvish, because I feel like no one should be off the table unless you're Fernando or Manny or Jake. No one should be off, or Joe Musgrove also. No one should be off the table. If Darvish is on the table for the right price, I think you can give him up.
I think Snell also is a guy that they're definitely going to keep.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he had a really solid end.
And
Clevenger, of course, yes. But Darvish absolutely cannot be off the table considering his age, how much money he makes. His, obviously he gets injured. I don't want to say quite often, but like those injuries derailed how good of a year he was having so bad. Like the spike in ERA from like, if you look from April through mid-June, he was fantastic. Like a sub 2.5 ERA. From that point on, it was probably like a solid 5+. And again, I don't know if you can contribute that to injuries or not, or the sticky stuff, but now he's got a full off season to be able to, get right, get healthy, and pitch without the sticky stuff. Now, the reason I bring up the trade is because if he can't ball out having this much time to adapt without the sticky stuff and get his health right, then he has no value in you're paying a guy to be, maybe a number 5. So, that's only with the salary floor, of course.
It's really interesting how like all the stuff with Darvish, just because I do have faith in him to improve. I think we all do. But there's definitely huge question marks there. So it'll be interesting, and that also that'll depend. Like if he's on and he's how he was early on in the year, you can have like 4 guys that are number ones.
Yeah.
But you have a couple of these guys struggle. Say Blake Snell doesn't have like that full on bounce back. Clevenger's like bogged by injury. Your starters might not look that good, and like I think that's the biggest thing for me. I saw someone saying, Fernando's going to make or break the season. Definitely. You have to have him healthy. I mean, think about last year. Imagine if the Padres didn't have Fernando healthy that year. Like if he was out at the beginning, maybe it would have been one of those things where it's like, oh my God, the Padres completely bottomed out. Like they had to do it, maybe it makes them look better coming into this year. But that's not the goal right now. The goal is not to have a tank year. The goal is to be really, really good. Next season, make or break for Darvish, 100%. 100%. I can't agree more. Also, Chase, I don't know if you know anything about this guy, Moises Lugo. Do you know anything about him? I see Gil talking about him. I don't know much about him.
Yeah, I was just looking him up. I don't know anything about his stuff. He did have a pretty solid year. It looks like he got called up to Double-A at the end of the year. He made 3 starts and 3 relief appearances in 15 innings. He had like a 1.8 ERA. He didn't walk a lot of people. He only had 2 hit by pitches. I think he gave up a home run. He looks like he has the stuff to succeed. I want to see him get those starts up, though. He made 3 relief appearances. I just don't know if that's because that's what they needed in the playoffs at the end of the season. But I want to give him a full year of Double-A before I say anything about him truly, because Double-A is kind of where pitchers make or break themselves. We saw it. Gore struggled heavily in Double-A. Adrian Martinez flourished. Then, when he got called up to another league, it was just a period of adjustment before he started to succeed again. So I want to give him that period of adjustment before I really say, he is an underrated prospect as of right now. But let's see where he goes with the higher talent that he's facing next year.
All right. This is a fun one. What do you think our starting pitcher line will be? Isaac, you want to go first? Let's say Clev is healthy, and let's say Paddock is healthy. And if Paddock's not healthy, then, it's free agent. Because I think that's likely what would happen, right? Like, I don't know if that's what you guys think. Or prospect, or if there's a prospect you think they would have starting.
So 1 through 5. I'll go Musgrove, Snell, Clevenger, Darvish. Did you say Clevenger is healthy?
Yeah,
Clev is my number. Clev is my number 1 if he's fully healthy. I no doubt about it. Clev is my number 1. But going into the season is what I'm thinking. Musgrove, Snell, Clevenger, Darvish, and then if it's Paddock, obviously it'll be Paddock if he's healthy. That's the big concern. Is he healthy? He had a partially torn, I believe it was a UCL, I want to say. We know how that goes. So, only time will tell with that one. So if he's not healthy, I could probably see them plugging in a prospect, Ryan Weathers. We'll see how that one goes. Maybe Niebla can be some sort of a magician for him, and if he is, then Weathers will be a nice option there. He is still really young, so I think it's kind of unfair to throw him into that spot. I think reasonably you can put him into a bullpen role, assuming it's a free agent or a trade. I've seen this brought up a couple times. I like Chris Bassett from the A's, and I know there's going to be a lot of connection between the Padres and the A's because of Bob Melvin, but I like that option. I don't really know many other starting pitchers that I'd like to put into that number 5. But assuming Paddock is healthy coming into the season, of course, my guy Chris Paddock will be the number 5.
Oof. You want to go first, Matt?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I think Musgrove will be the 1. I think, and this is with Clev healthy, and this is not trying to knock Clev. I just think this is how the team kind of views them. This is what I think it'll actually look like. I think it'll go Musgrove 1, Snell 2, Clev 3, Darvish 4, Paddock 5. If Paddock's healthy, I don't think there's a chance that he's not the 5. I don't think that he's going to get beaten out or anything. If he's not the 5, I think that you might see the Padres do something a little bit weird, which is something that hasn't really had that much success, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did it this way. If they did not sign a pitcher in the free agency, or a starter in the free agency period, and I think they would start spring training with almost like a competition for the 5 spot between Mackenzie Gore, Adrian Martinez, literally like all of the guys, right? I think that's what they would do. And if they don't think they look good enough, then I think they would go and get a guy during spring training. I don't really love that idea though, because typically guys who come in spring training and don't start in spring do not start out the year well. So I feel like it'd be one of those moves where you should go and get the guy before spring starts, because if you don't, then you just get this guy that's going to struggle early on and then probably will lose his job in a couple months. So I don't know. That's where I'm at, but I'd rather them go sign a veteran player to be in that 5 spot if Paddock's not healthy.
I do not agree with that. I go with an upside prospect, but undisputed, Joe Musgrove is the number 1. He's going to be the opening day starter. That I don't think you can argue anyone else. It's got to be No Joe. I'm going to go Snell, Darvish, then Clev, just because I think the Padres are going to be a little weary of Clev's, injury. Kind of give him some time, give him a few more days rest before he starts off the season. And then I think, you could probably flip them off and, in an off day, Clev will end up being the 3rd spot. 5th spot, if it's got to be Paddock, but if it's not, I think the Padres might, try to shoot for either Ryan Weathers or Adrian Martinez. I really want Adrian Martinez to come up on this roster. I think he's ready. You can't just keep prospects down the entire time. You got to see what they got. And I think Adrian Martinez is ready. And I really hope Bob Melvin doesn't do that. If he sits Myers against Colorado, San Fran, and Arizona, then he's not using Will Myers right. Everybody knows Myers hits really well hits unbelievably well in Coors. He hits unbelievably well in Chase Field. And he hits the Frisco Giants pretty well too. And Tingler didn't use that right. I remember I went to a Diamondbacks game against the Padres. It was the game Mad Bum pitched against. And I would have bet anyone in that stands $100 that Will Myers was going to hit a home run, and he hit a home run that game. It's Myers is going to do well against these teams, and then you don't see him start like half those games, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Chase, I got to add something real quick too. What about like when Myers is on fire to just bench him then? That was so. Don't start Myers if he's slumping, because he's going to slump and he's going to strike out a ton. But if he is hot, he can legit carry your lineup for like a month. And they just like the time of the year where they benched him the most was when he was hot. I will never understand that. That was so strange to me. That was bad.
That was bad. Then I don't even want to get into the Anderson Espinosa thing again. He wasn't a Rule 5. He was on the 40-man roster. He was a top 10 prospect. He was doing really good at the time. He finished off the year really strong. He got up to 5 innings. He was what you typically want in a starter. He was high upside. Yes, he had his injury history, but he was finally making it way, and the Padres gave up on him. I don't know why. What kind of success do pitchers who have had 2 Tommys on?
Yeah, I could answer. I just looked at that right now. Right. You can go first, Chase. Go for it.
I say it depends on the pitcher. We've seen a lot of guys, Tommy John is the name of the game of a pitcher nowadays. It's kind of like every single pitcher throughout their career has at least one. So I don't think it makes or breaks a career. I think it's more or less, do they trust their arm again?
Yeah, you could. I looked up some of the names. I don't know how many pitchers that were in their prime right now, like Mike Clevenger has had this much success. I don't know if any of them, have had 2 Tommy John surgeries. I know Jacob deGrom has had at least one. I don't really know if any have come back successfully after 2. There's a couple guys in our organization that this is their second one. I think Adrian Morejon just had a second one. Castillo, I believe, has had 2 also. Espinosa, I believe, has had 2. He's not with us anymore, obviously, but he had 2. However, none of them have had the success, are in their prime like Mike Clevenger has. What Mike Clevenger stated about his second Tommy John was that he feels it's a lot easier for him to come back from than the first one because he knows the processes, he knows how to do everything right, and he knows the ins and outs of getting healthy after Tommy John. So, honestly, I would say only time will tell after having 2 Tommy John surgeries. Not a lot of guys are like Clevenger after having, in terms of having those surgeries. I can't really think of any off the top of my head that have had 2.
Strasburg
Strasburg is one, and yeah, that was one of the names I was going to bring up. I forgot to mention him because I was reading the article right now.
Because didn't he say it kind of helped him?
Yeah,
wasn't that the thing with him?
Yeah,
that he was like, okay. And you guys got to tell me this because I don't know a ton about Tommy John. Is it an injury where like if you have it 3 times you're kind of screwed? Isn't it like third times you're like?
If you have it 3 times, you should just retire. Yeah, if you have it 3 times, you should just retire for sure. I think 2 is the cutoff.
So yeah, so then a lot of these guys like Morhone, Clevenger, and like half the staff is in serious jeopardy.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, like for like Morhone, he's so young that I guess it doesn't really matter. But if he has to have another one, you just designate him to a bullpen role. You don't put him as a starter. Like if you're a starter and you've had 2 Tommy John surgeries, you might want to switch over to the bullpen because it's obvious that your arm cannot handle the strain of being a starter. And that's okay. You can still be valuable to the team in other ways. You could be a closer. You could be a middle relief guy. You could be a setup man. Just, I don't think Tommy John is what it used to be. And, it's probably one of those things where you have a brand new ligament in the elbow. So it might be better than when you started off your career because it doesn't have all that scarring, it doesn't damage to it already. And in some cases, like from what I've seen, is if you get Tommy John before you're 27, sometimes it helps your arm and you gain velocity since it's a brand new ligament and it's stronger than it used to be.
Kind of reminds me of like when people talk about like ACLs, how it's what I mean, like it's got a lot better. Where like, oh, you tear a knee, you'll be back in 9 months, no questions about it. Like you're not going to be affected. And then it's like a guy is like slightly affected, like oh he's cooked. It's like dude, he's played like 3 games. Like come on. But I feel like, and also like that was something like I remember reading some like books on the Niners and Jerry Rice, he tore his knee. It was like, no, Jerry's done. It's like, no, he had 12 more years after that or whatever it was. Like, oh, that's when the surgery kind of started like working out much better. Okay, final thing. Isaac, what are your thoughts on the Chargers today? They're playing against half the Steelers team. Sunday Night Football. What do you think?
They should win. They're not playing TJ Watt. They're not playing Minka. They're not playing Joe Hayden. I believe Ben is playing, but I mean, I'd rather Ben play than Mason Rudolph, to be honest. So they should win. I think they're going to struggle in terms of the run game, just because Najee Harris has proven to be fantastic. He's a stud of a running back. If Najee Harris had the offensive line and the Big Ben production, and AB, he would have put up better stats than Le'Veon Bell. Crazy to say, but I think that is fair to say. I honestly think he's just that good. I know Le'Veon was a beast, but I also think Najee is just better. So with that being said,
I want to answer this too, because I've heard a lot about this.
Yes.
And I don't watch it enough, but you were telling me about this.
Yes, I will say 100%. It's not Staley. It's 100% Joe Lombardi. If you look at the old Saints offense, you see that Drew Brees was kind of, I wouldn't say he was cooked, but his arm was not the same as old Drew. Yes, exactly.
No, like, Drew Brees was cooked, bro. Drew Brees was so cooked.
Like everything was short to Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. Like we're seeing that a lot right now. Everything is short to Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. But we have guys that are able to we can throw the ball downfield. We can be a vertical offense. Mike Williams, where has he even gone? We forgot to use Mike Williams. But the bread and butter last year, you're absolutely right, was Herbert being able to push the ball downfield with Jalen Guyton Michael Williams kind of hurt. Tyron Johnson, Donald Parham. Being able to push the ball downfield was huge to be able to open up the game for Keenan Allen, our running backs, which sucked last year, but Austin Eckler is legit. So, I mean, I feel decent about this game today. It is the Chargers, so I can never feel fully confident. That's all I can really say on that.
I think they should win.
They better win.
But I also think, like, I know the
They
line's like
should.
+6 right now. I think it's going to be close.
Chargers Steelers games are never blowouts.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking that, like, I think that for the Steelers, like, you have Najee has to go off.
Mhm.
Like, he has to have like $150 or like 200 all-purpose yards for them to win because their defense is not fully healthy, and when they don't have like those elite players on their defense, like, you're missing TJ Watt. TJ Watt might be the best defensive lineman in the NFL right now. I know Donald's still in the league. I understand that. TJ Watt has been absolutely ridiculous the last 2 years. Like, was it the Seahawks game this year where he literally like single-handedly took over the game and won them the football game?
Yeah.
That was the best defensive line performance I've seen this year. Like, I think he's that good. So missing him is so huge. I was actually gonna bet Steelers +6 or +5, I think it was, and then TJ Watt went out, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I think it's gonna be close, but I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah.
The Niners better win. If the Niners lose, we're gonna have a serious problem.
Who do they
Cannot
play?
lose to the Jags.
Okay, bro.
Hey, the Jags did beat the Bills.
Yeah, and I like the Bills. I think the Bills are great, but the Bills also, but the Bills aren't in the position to be like, all right, we have a losing record. We are fighting for the playoffs. Well, the Bills are probably going to make the playoffs. I'm pretty confident in that. They're like, that's a trap game for the Bills. The Niners don't have the luxury of having trap games anymore after blowing so many this year. So I don't know. They better win. I think they should kill them. Maybe not kill them, but they should win by double-digit points. And if they win by anything less than completely controlling the game, there is a serious red flag that needs to be raised because that's an issue. Chase, you feel the same way on that?
I mean, Jimmy G has been a walking red flag this entire season, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Last 3 games, he's been good.
He's been solid. Yeah, he's been
Last
good
3 games,
last
yeah.
couple of games.
And
But
you guys
before
know
that-
how I feel about Jimmy.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
trust me,
pretty darn
anytime
good
Jimmy
this past
does
couple
anything
games.
remotely bad, I'm screaming at the TV. I fucking hate Jimmy. It's bad. It's really
Yeah.
bad. I hate Jimmy.
It was also like the one thing is like people really try to defend Jimmy a lot. It's like, guys, he's not been good. He's literally not done his job over the course of 4 seasons. Like, what are we doing here? It's time to move on. But yeah, the Chargers being out of San Diego probably benefited the Padres. Oh, yes, that benefited the Padres.
Absolutely.
So big.
100%.
Absolutely.
They can dominate the market now, and more people want to
it's
watch
theirs.
that.
It's their market.
Yeah. All right. I see it's football starting right now. We'll take off. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a couple fun things in the works, so we'll have some stuff to share with you guys eventually here. But we'll talk to you guys soon. We'll be back next Sunday, and we'll be posting it on Tuesday. So talk to you then. See you guys.